Dear students, this is part 4, right? And here Cyril said curiously, why? What did she do? Doris, never you mind. Mrs. Pearson rising and preparing to move to the kitchen. Have we any stout left? I can't remember. Cyril, bottle or two, I think, but you don't want stout now. Mrs. Pearson, moving left slowly, I do. Cyril, what for? Mrs. Pearson turning at the door, to drink, you clot. Mrs. Pearson exits right instantly. Cyril and Doris are in huddle, close together at left center, rapidly whispering. Doris, has she been like that with you too? Cyril, yes, no tea ready, couldn't care less. Doris, well, I am glad it's both of us. I thought it would be done something wrong. Cyril, so did I, but it's her, of course. She was smoking and playing cards when I came in. I couldn't believe my eyes. Cyril, I asked her if I was feeling off color and she said she was not. Doris, well, she is suddenly all different and that's not what made me cry. It was not what she said, but the way she said it and the way she looked. Cyril, haven't noticed that. She looks just same to me. Doris, she doesn't to me. Do you think she could have hit her head or something? And got, what is it? Cyril, stuttered, do you mean she's barmy? Doris, no. You fathead. Concussions she might have. Right? Cyril, sounds far-fetched. Doris, well, she's far-fetched. If you ask me, she suddenly begins to giggle. Cyril, now then, what is it? Doris, if she is going to be like this when dad comes home. She giggles again. Cyril, beginning to guffaw, I am staying in for that 2 front dress circles for the first house. Right? So here, now Cyril interrupts and interrogates as to what did the mothers do. Doris tells her bother to stay out of it. Stout means it's a kind of strong and dark beer, right? So paying as much less attention as one could, Mrs. Pearson gets up to go to the kitchen while asking for stout, right? So Cyril, bottle or two, I think, but you don't want stout now. Cyril recalls that there might be 1 or 2 bottles of it left, but tells her in a weird tone that after all this mess, she doesn't need stout. She makes it clear that she wants stout at the moment. And Cyril asks why. Then Mrs. Pearson replies, for a clot to drink. You clot? Clot means it's a foolish person, right? So Mrs. Pearson calls Cyril foolish for asking her such a question. As soon as Mrs. Pearson leaves, the siblings get together and they just make a communication. And what was the communication says that they were asking about the reason behind this, why their moms were behaving in a strange way. Cyril tells Doris that she had been behaving like that with him too. She didn't even make tea for him. Doris is relieved to hear that they both are at the same boat because she feared it is her who had hurt Mrs. Pearson in some way. And Cyril expressed that he thought the same, but actually it's Mrs. Pearson who had been behaving odd. Doris tells Cyril how shocked she was on seeing her mom smoking and playing cards when she came home from work. Cyril tells her he even asked her if she was feeling unwell, but she said she had never felt better. She is amazed by the difference in her. She tells Cyril that it is not her words that hurt her, but the look in her eyes that make her cry. He mentions that he hadn't noticed any change in her appearance. Doris suspects that Mrs. Pearson might hit her head somewhere and got herself hurt. Barmy means mad or crazy. Amazed, he asked Doris if he means that their mother has gone crazy. And fathead means a stupid person. Fathead, F-A-T-H-E-D. Fathead means a stupid person. Concussions means a violent shock, right? So Doris suggests that she might be in a shock after having hit her head somewhere, and far-fetched means even impulsible, right? You can also say unconvincing. Cyril thinks that Doris is not being reasonable, right? And with a light-hearted laughter, Doris comments that she is finding her mother to be irrational at the moment. Cyril asks her what she means. So Doris indicates what's going to happen when their father sees Mrs. Pearson behaves this way. And guffaw means a loud and a hearty laugh, right? So Cyril makes fun of what's going to happen in that case and jokes about is while saying that he is even willing to stay at home for seeing that, right? And so now at the same time Mrs. Pearson enters carrying a bottle of stout and half filled glass, and Cyril and Doris to stop their guffawing and jiggling, but they are not quick enough, and Mrs. Pearson regards them with contempt. Mrs. Pearson coldly, "You two are always talking about being grown up. Why don't you both try for once to be your age?" She moves towards to the city and sits. Cyril, "Can't we laugh now?" Mrs. Pearson, "Yes, if it is funny. Go on, tell me, make me laugh. I could do with it." Doris, "You know, you never understand our jokes, Mom." And Mrs. Pearson said, "I was yawning at your jokes before you were born, Doris." Doris, almost tearful again, "What's making you talk like this? What have we done?" Mrs. Pearson promptly, "Nothing, but come in. Ask for something, go out again, then come back where there is nowhere else to go." Cyril aggressively, "Look, if you want get tea ready, then I will find something to eat myself." Mrs. Pearson, "Why not? Help yourself." She takes a sip of stout. Cyril, turning on his way to the kitchen, "Mind you, I think it's a bit thick. I have been working all day." Doris, "Same here." Mrs. Pearson, calmly, 8 hours a day? Cyril, "Yes, 8 hours a day, and don't forget it." Mrs. Pearson said, "I have done my 8 hours. That's different." Doris, "Of course it is." Mrs. Pearson, calmly, "It was. Now it is not 40 hours week for all now. Just watch it at weekend when I have my 2 days off." Doris and Cyril exchange alarmed glances. Then they stare at Mrs. Pearson, who returns their look calmly. Cyril, "Must grab something to eat. Look as if I will need to keep my strength up." Cyril exits to the kitchen. Doris, moving to the city obnoxiously, "Mummy, you don't mean you are not going to do anything on Saturday and Sunday?" Mrs. Pearson, angrily, "No, I wouldn't go that far. I might make a bed or two and do a bit of cooking as a favor, which means of course I will have to be asked very nicely and thanked for everything and generally made me a fuss of. But any of you 40 hours a weekers who expect to be waited on hand and foot on Saturday and Sunday with no thanks for it, and there's nasty disappointment might go off for the week and perhaps, right? And Doris, here contempt means to feel regret, and city means long upholstered seat. You can also call it like a sofa. So while the siblings were talking, Mrs. Pearson enters the room with a stout, and they failed at controlling their laughter, and Mrs. Pearson ridicules them. While moving towards the city, she talks about how both of them regard themselves as mature and ask them to behave and be reasonable like people of their age. Now Cyril said, "Can't we laugh now?" Cyril asked about the objection, and Mrs. Pearson replies that she has no problem with them at laughing something which is funny, and she asked them to make her laugh as well by telling her what they were talking about. Doris undermines Mrs. Pearson's ability to understand their jokes and Mrs. Pearson replies in an equally mean tone, indicating how boring their jokes usually are. Doris, who is not used to Mrs. Pearson talking to them in such a manner, asks her the reason behind her behavior. And Mrs. Pearson Doris, she was about to cry and ask why they have done to deserve this. She mentions that they haven't done much except bargaining in whenever they want and going out as per their convenience. In between, all they do is make her work all time, and when they have no other place to go, they come back home. Cyril gets angry and hyper when telling Mrs. Pearson that if she doesn't get the tea ready, he will find something to eat by himself. Mrs. Pearson asks him to go ahead and find something for himself to eat while sipping stout. While going out to kitchen, he attempts to make Mrs. Pearson feel obligated to prepare for him as he had been working all day. Doris agrees with Cyril, and Mrs. Pearson, who was actually Mrs. Fitzgerald, didn't lose her cool and tells them that they work only 8 hours shift a day, and Cyril exaggerates upon his 8 hours shift. She lets them know that she has also completed her 8 hours shift of doing their work and handling their tantrums, right? And they both argue that Mrs. Pearson's 8-hour work is nowhere compared to theirs, right? Without losing her cool, she warns them that everything is going to change from now. She will only work for 40 hours a week, just like all of them, and tells them to wait and watch them. She takes her weekend off. Doris and Cyril get shocked while Mrs. Pearson maintains her calm. Cyril exits to find something to eat in the kitchen, and he feels it's necessary as he would require the strength to face all this. Doris, still amazed at what Mrs. Pearson said before, confirms if she was joking about or not. Right? Now, meaning of nasty. Nasty means bad. So, Mrs. Pearson explains that she might do a few petty tasks if she is pleasantly asked to do so, and is duly thanked for performing them as well. She warns her that if any of her family members who work for only 8 hours a day and keep blabbering about it expect to perform all their tasks, then they are going to be let down this time. She even mentions that she could go for a vacation as well. So, dear students, that was all about part 4. We will see another videos in next segment. Up to the time, thank you. Have a nice day.